everyone. Welcome this afternoon on the DSI Facebook group for a special episode of DSI Live. I'm Dental Speaker Institute founder Vanessa Emerson, and I'm here with our friend Joshua Scott of Studio8E8. Hey, Josh.
Hey, how are you?
Awesome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sitting here in Columbus, Ohio. It is, to be honest, a little gray skies out right now and cold, about 38 degrees. So we're hoping spring gets here soon, but yeah.
That's just crazy. Here I am in Phoenix where it's in the mid 80s by Sunday. In just a couple days, it's supposed to be 101.
Oh, man.
Isn't that crazy, the difference? That's
Yeah.
nuts. Well, so I think probably a lot of people know who you are in Studio8E8, but I'm still going to give you a little intro and you can kind of fill us in on the gaps. So Studio8E8 is a company that helps with brand development, story-based websites, and digital advertising. And we're going to be here to talk a little bit more about what you guys do and how you can help speakers and how you can give them some guidance on helping them with their stories and leveraging their brands. But I want to encourage you to check out Studio8E8. And I love it that it's an 8E8.
Yeah.
.com, so which is pretty cool. So let's get started. Jumpstart this year, we had a chance to spend some time with you. That you were there with many of our jump starters, and but give us a little more of an idea. Who are you guys? Like, what do you do, and why does that matter to speakers and consultants?
Yeah. Well, my story, I've been around dentistry for about 18 years now, and which seems crazy, really, but it goes so fast. The first 12 of it I spent with a practice management company, which was great. I learned like the profitability business side of a dental practice. But I've always been on the marketing end of things. And so I was their marketing director through most of that and helped them grow. At some point, I looked around and it kind of dawned on me. I was like, dental marketing on the whole, dental websites, like we're just not very good. And I think I never quite understood that. Like there was a little bit of a disconnect for me because I felt when I looked at the profession, it was this profession that was innovative. It's inspiring. I mean, this right now, especially, it's this beautiful profession of humans serving humans. And yet I never saw that story being told. And so I think that's really was the original kind of passion and drive there. And so I had some friends in Columbus, Ohio that worked for some of the big ad agencies and creative firms. And I remember I kind of pitched them this idea. I was like, hey, what do you guys think about dental marketing? And they're like, is that even a thing? I'm like, no, I think it's a thing. I think we can make this a thing. And to tell you the truth, they probably got into a little hesitant with me, but at the same time, we were all really good friends, and I did it on purpose because I didn't want to bring dental people into it. I actually wanted to kind of go outside and bring a different look. We had a vision to create something different, and so yeah, that started in 2014, right when the mobile revolution kind of switched. So we were right at the beginning of that, which was great. And so yeah, we call ourselves dentistry's story-driven marketing agency. And I think that's been kind of our passion is dentistry deserves a better story. And it starts with practices really telling that story.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. There's so many amazing do-it-yourself tools to start with out there, right? There's a place for all of it, of course, right? Because especially for speakers and consultants as they're getting started, many times they're working in a practice and trying to start a business on the side, and they don't really have the resources yet to pay for the development. And so they go to Wix or Squarespace or something, and they develop something on their own, and that's great to get started. And same thing I would imagine happens with practices where they maybe don't even 100% understand how it can be a generator of leads for them and how it can really drive traffic to their office. But so they use it's something that feels templated. It feels like stock photography feels like. It feels like the same. It looks the same all around. So what you're suggesting is that it's more important to have something that feels unique and different. And how we do that is by showing our flavor and our story and who we are. Do I understand that right? How
Yeah,
do we
no,
do
for
that?
sure. And you're totally right. Like there's all kinds of DIY products out there, and it's amazing. Like there's a space for it. And
Yes.
I mean, even WordPress is a really great platform. It's done more for the website industry than probably any other tool out there. And so we have mass respect for that. The downside, if it came to WordPress, is typically everything's built on some type of structure that's already been created. And so we can tend to see duplicate code and even, underneath and some of those things. But I'm also like, there's a time and a place. Like, especially if you're starting your practice, you may have to bootstrap that. You got cash flow, concerns. So I'm all like, yeah, get your Squarespace, get your Wix site. The other interesting side of it is we're one of the bigger companies that work with startups, which, to be honest, in the last couple of years, that was surprising to me. I didn't start this company to build websites for startups, because I just know like building a unique custom site for a startup probably doesn't fit in their budget. But at the same time, that's happened because as startups come out and go, hey, what's really important to us is that we tell our story, that we differentiate ourselves from the beginning. I think even startups today are seeing a gap in that market. They go into a community, they look at the other 10 practices and their websites and they go, oh, there's an opportunity here if we created something unique. And so we've worked with a lot of startups. I mean, it's been one of our primary driving, businesses. And so I think it's coming. There's a little bit of a shift in the industry of people that are really valuing, like, okay, let me tell our story. Let me, what's unique to us? Why are we doing this? Let's communicate that. At the end of the day, though, I believe the best marketing is marketing that's true. And so what better way to do that than to just go, well, let's tell your story. Why did you do this? Why are you starting this? What are you doing? And tell that.
And you know that you're the only one that has that story.
Yeah, I know. So it's true. It's authentic. And, and I think like at the end of the day, we can come up with the things that are sexy, that get clicked on, right? And there's marketing companies that take that approach, and that's all fine. And we can play math and we can play statistics. And if you send out this type of message to 10,000 people, we get this many conversions, and all that's like true. And I'm not minimizing that. At the same time, I think what's authentic probably connects better than that. But, we don't always see the math behind that, because now we're talking brand, and brand can get really hard to quantify, whereas stats are just really easy to look at, and clicks and conversions. And so, the biggest companies in the world are brand companies. They've been telling, Coca-Cola, Nike, Amazon, they've been telling stories for decades. And so there's no surprise why they're so big.
And brand really lies in the hearts and minds of our customers, right? And potential customers, right? Like you said, it's really hard. It's not like we can put out there what we want our brand to be, but what really our brand is what other people think of us, is the way I look at it. And hey, thank you guys for saying hello. Let me just do a little bit of housekeeping here. We've got a couple people, and unfortunately today on Be Live, I can't tell who's saying hi. So thank you for saying hi to us, and feel free to tell us who you are. And if you have questions for Josh, please pop in there and with your questions, and we can see what you're writing. In other words, I just can't see who's here, but thank you for being here with us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking to kind of like a high level overall around, there's options with websites, and what you're finding is that a great way to stand apart, a great way to get good results is to, tell your story and have it feel really unique and different. Let's bring this a little more directly to the speakers in our group, speakers and consultants in our group.
Yeah.
And many of them have dentists that they work with that could, they could take this same idea to their dental clients with their websites. But what do they need to do specifically on their website, do you feel, to be able to help them connect more fully with the planners, to be able to get those kind of gigs, but also as consulting people to be able to attract more leads for consulting? So for speaking and consulting, what do they need to do on their site, and how can they tell, how by telling their story does it attract the right client?
Yeah. It's a great question. One of the unique things over the last couple of years too that's happened is just us working with some influencers, some speakers, and some consultants, and kind of same thing is they approached us about, hey, how can I really stand out? I mean, Vanessa, you know best. I mean, the speaking field in dentistry is there's no shortage of speakers.
There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I mean, just your conference had so many great people there. It was crazy. And I mean, good job on that too, by the way. That was so much fun back in January.
We did have fun.
Yeah, it was great. No, I look back, but some of those, we had a few conferences this first quarter, and I'm so thankful for them because it was like such a good time. And now that we're all kind of shut down, I'm like, but yeah, yours was one of the highlights of the first quarter for sure. But no, I think it's that same concept of, look, there's a lot of speakers. Everybody's trying to get into it and really figuring out who you are, why you're different, what you're offering, and then communicating that in a digital space. And so I think even if I were to go back to a dental practice, for example, what happens is, like with even the startup, they will invest, $500,000, $400,000, $500,000, $650,000 into building out this amazing practice. And what happens is they get on the phone with me to talk about a website, and they all tell me how different they are and how different this practice is going to be and how amazing it is and all that. And what surprises me is how many of them want to build a website for $2,000 or $4,000 or whatever, a budget type website that just get it up. And what I always challenge them with is, it's one thing to say you're different. It's another thing to show people that you're different. And so really creating a digital presence that matches what you're building in a physical sense. And so take it back to speakers and consultants. I think it's the same thing of, you know who you are. You have this idea of this passion and this gift that's inside of you, this calling to educate and to speak and to lead. It's one thing to know that and to say you have it. It's another thing to show that in a digital space where, planners or potential clients can interact and see that. And so kind of closing that gap and creating consistency into like, this is my vision, this is my calling, and then showing that online where people can easily see that, I think it's a huge deal.
So we do that through imagery. Then like we'd have the right kind of photos. We'd have the right kind of content. I mean, I know the story definitely is important, and I'm anticipating that we also want to infuse in there what's going on in the client's life. I mean, it's like the way that I think the hardest part of designing a website's the wording. I don't know about you, but like getting the wording right, because we can get great photos, but like we can lose them if we don't have the right content.
Yeah.
So in your content, it would be important for the speaker to also, and the consultant also, to really understand what's wrong at the what are they solving, what is the challenge or problem. I always tell people, think about what would keep your attendee up at night. They wake up at night and they're laying there in bed and they're fussing over something that's happening at the office. What is that thing? And then how do you solve it with your program? And so what I'm hearing you say is it's important then to bring in those differentiators would be in how you can help them solve that, and like, or help me like just flesh that out a little bit more about the story, because it's more than me. What I don't want to give people the impression that it's an all about me, right? When we talk about the story, help us know more about what do you mean by what is that story?
Yeah. No, that's a great point, because we really try to, so it's story based, but where that can go wrong is if it becomes this self-centered story. Yeah. And so, especially, as even as a clinician in a dental practice, but as a speaker, as a leader, it's like yes, the story is you, but your role is the guide along the journey. And your client is the hero. And so you have to be able to speak like that and set them up as there's this hero that's on this journey and they're facing this obstacle that they don't know how to solve. In comes you as the trusted guide to help pull them through that or lead them through that. And then the whole world is happy again, so, which is like every movie storyline ever.
I was thinking that every great story. Yeah. Right.
But like, it's so true. And there's a reason why those work. And that's part of it too. And you can see the sites and that get set up where they can be very self-centric. And so thinking through photography, like trying to capture photography or video of yourself interacting with clients? Like, how do you make the client even the hero through imagery, through the site? Yet at the same time, like, they're also there because they want to like figure out what you're speaking about or how your process works. So it's a little kind of give and play, if that makes sense, through it.
Yeah, definitely. The guide on the side, then we want to be known as the guide on the side that helps achieve a certain solution, that sought after solution. So it's a little tricky. I imagine you guys help them with the writing of it too then.
We do. And what's interesting, and you've probably had the same experience, and we've had some shared clients here recently where this has happened, where getting it, they may be a little bit ahead of even some of this stuff. Like they go, I want to speak, I want to consult, or I'm doing a little bit of it, I need to throw up a website. And so then we start working with them through some of the discovery, and it forces them to really stop and go, what am I doing? Like, what's the problem I'm solving? How am I solving it? Who am I as the guide? Like, some of these major things, I mean, the first 3 sections of the website should probably in a sense be that, like, what's the problem you're solving? How do you solve it? Who are you as the guide? Here's some other client success stories.
Yeah.
So there's some basics there, but when you stop to work with people, sometimes like they haven't gotten clarity on that. And you're trying to help them through that. And I know recently you and I just had a client where it's like, we built something, and then I think as he's kind of going through it, and with your expertise, you're coming back in to go, hey, this would be so much better if we did it like that. And I look through it, I'm like, yeah, I 100% agree with you. So
it's I often think of it, and maybe I hope this isn't crude, but I often think of it as like a birthing process. It's like it takes a while to the baby's got before the baby's born. It's like this whole you birth the idea of, I want to speak and I want to have a course on hygiene production or something like improving. So then you have to think about what do I, there's a lot to what's in that course, and how am I different? How can I present this in a way? And not that it's really more about showing what is your expertise and you as a thought leader. Yeah. It's a challenge. It's a fun challenge. And it can be, once you work through that, I think it can feel so amazing. I want to say, hey to Bob Pick. For some reason, Bob came through and the others' names didn't. Hey, Bob, thanks for being here with us. Oh, we've got multiple people here. Oh, we've got, Mary Kay. Hey, and Tracy. And now I can see your names here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for saying hey. Hey, Art. Hey, Kelly. We got quite a few people here watching with us. Josh is a draw. We got, I got several people on here watching today. So let's see where we want to go. So we talked about story and really the hero, and showing how you solve the problem. And I know one thing I wanted to just add in there that it dawned on me some time back, because that's a similar formula that I work with my clients. We do speaker packets, is around the problem solution and the differentiation. Like, how are you different? But it occurred to me that goes with everything you do. I mean, it's like a basic marketing principle, right? It's like if you're writing an article, if you're writing a blog post, if whatever you're putting out there, if you start with that, what's that problem or challenge, that's how you hook them and bring them in. And I just wanted to make a little note about that.
Yeah.
How does this all tie in then with branding? Like, I find that sometimes people think, oh, I've got a logo, I already have my brand, but is that the brand, or is there more than that?
Yeah, that's a great.
I know the answer to this, so I thought.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And honestly, the whole branding question, and if you ask 10 different marketing professionals, you might get 10 different answers on it. Brand in a very macro sense is everything that you feel and experience about that company or that organization. And so sometimes that's not always helpful, because people are like, well, what does that really mean? In our world, with what we're building, there's definitely some key components to it. One being logo. That's, for me, helps. Logo and some type of tagline or hook really helps start the story. Like, you've got 3 seconds, a tenth of a second, like whatever statistic you want to throw out to capture somebody's attention. The logo and that tagline, the logo is going to catch the eye. Tagline is going to give them one thing. The story starts. So that's a huge piece of it. I think photography is a huge piece of it. You're communicating the experience. The big thing with photography is that I call it transference. It's that principle of like if we were the pediatric practice, I want the child in the chair laughing with the doctor, and I want mom standing behind the child like this is okay. Like the whole thing's going to be okay. Because what we realize is mom's going to do is put herself in that situation as the mom and go, this child is in the chair. The doctor is telling a joke or something. They're laughing. Like my child will be okay. And so that transference happens. And so creating that through the photography, patients will literally go, this is the experience I'm going to have. I feel good about that. Let me call. Video plays a role in it too. I don't think there's a better way to communicate or create trust online right now than through video. They experience your expertise. You get set up as the expert. So, those in a digital space, I think those are the major brand players. But then, of course, if they, pull into the parking lot of your practice and, the parking lot needs repaved and landscaping's a mess, that plays into your brand as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to add a note there on photography, because as you were talking about the child in the chair and the mom, I mean, really, again, it's telling the story.
Yeah.
And there have been times I've worked with speakers that have a ton of photos, but they're just not the right photos. Mm-hmm. When you look at them, it doesn't, like, that might be you up at the very front that's in the dark up there, but we can't really tell if that's you on that photo. You know what I mean? It's like, It's got to be the right photo. If we're going to do the action shot or I have seen the photography you guys do is just exceptional. Beautiful. I'm Shaquila Angadi. I know you did her website and her logo and the photography and everything. Very unique, very much captured her essence. And so it takes an artist, I think, a technician, somebody who can handle the camera. That's technician, the right word there, but like also to be able to that's artistry, to be able to frame it up just right. And that's what we're talking about, I think, here with story and, to really be set apart as professional. I think when you have a really professional website that doesn't feel templated, it says something about you to potential clients and to meeting planners. And again, I'm not mean that in a judgy way, because boy, we've all had along the way. I don't know how many websites I've had, and my first websites I created and we showed, but it worked in to the point where you could build your business and then you can have a professional handle it for you. But I think there's something to be said too about, you mentioned earlier, there are a lot of meetings. There are literally thousands of meetings, and there are thousands of speakers, for sure, thousands. And that's not a bad thing. It's right. Just, I say that to emphasize there's a lot of noise. It's just like right now going live on Facebook. Here we are in the middle of the, however you want to look at it, a COVID crisis or a coronation. We're in the middle of this weird time. And like right now to go live, there's just something happening all the time. So I think it's similar for speakers and consultants, especially if you talk on certain, if you are an expert in certain areas like practice management, there's a lot of noise. So the website is one part of the brand, the photography, you're saying like the whole experience in working with them. But could you speak to me more about the value, the benefits you feel that it brings a speaker and consultant to have something that just really doesn't feel stock? It feels like, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. And I'll give you an example here. I'll go back to that pediatric practice and then we'll switch over to speakers. But, if I were to ask you, who's the audience of a pediatric practice? Like if a pediatric practice is marketing, who's their audience?
Parent and probably mom.
Yeah, probably mom. And mom's dealing with, and most likely, even if mom's making a decision to go to a pediatric practice, there could be some backstory there. Their child needs some work.
Fear or something.
Yeah, maybe their child is a little bit of a handful. And so they, like all that type of stuff is going on. So typically, regardless of the backstory, there's probably some anxiety around that. And yet, when we look at pediatric practices, 9 times out of 10, you pull them up and the very first image on the front is what?
The doctor.
Stock, like smiling. Kids. Yeah, stock kids like playing around. And yet I'm like, the audience isn't other kids, like, oh yeah, we're going to go and have fun. The audience is talking to mom and lowering her anxiety and making sure that she knows her child will, like, this is a good decision. You'll be okay. And so when it comes to, a speaker, part of it is like even asking you, what's your audience? It's not necessarily the audience that you're going to be speaking to. A lot of times it's the meeting planner, and it's making them look like a hero. Like, that's what every meeting planner wants, is they want to book a speaker and people come up and go, oh my gosh, that speaker was amazing. And it makes them feel like a hero. Like, yes, we did a great job. We booked the right speaker. So, I think, and look, I actually need to redo my website. It's kind of 2 years old, and I've had thoughts running through my head, but so I'm speaking to myself here. But it's really kind of that transference of going, okay, if meeting planners are landing here, what can I do to communicate this is the right decision? I'm going to make you look like a hero. And I think so much of that, we're judging things on design now. We're judging things. It's that 10th of a second to go, oh, this person has it together.
Yeah.
In dentistry, we know that, like, they're not being judged on clinic. People will say this is a great dentist because the website looks awesome, and it has nothing to do with their clinical skill, because it's just hard to judge that. And so if a meeting planner lands, it may not be whether or not you're technically a good speaker. It's the website gets attention, and it's like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about.
I've seen that within the speaking arena with, I'm thinking of one person who had many years experience as an office manager, and she started, she put out her shingle as a speaker. She had no experience as a speaker, but she had great speaker packet and a great website. And her first email campaign out the door was hired to speak at a national meeting.
Wow.
And it was one of those kind of moments, right? She's hasn't even spoken at her local ADOM chapter or some for other office managers, which would be like a friendly feeling crowd. And I think it can. That is just my example to say I totally agree with you. I think it can really put a impression. It's an image. It's an image thing.
Yeah, I would say you work with lots. You do this for lots of speakers, and I know you do great work as well. So, when you're working with a speaker that really invests in the image and the design of it, and somebody who doesn't, what effect do you see that have?
Oh, it's a very big difference. Now, I think that the landing at the website, in my experience, most of the time when someone lands there, it's either because they've been Googled. They're Googling for speakers on a certain topic, or they know someone's name, they were referred to them, and they say, you need to find Dr. John Smith, and he speaks on such and such topic. And they'll what's interesting is that they don't go to the website and then call. They'll go to the website and they look for the speaking page. They look for the speaker packet. Like, people need to have a packet by name. Meeting planners ask for that. So they'll go to try to find that. And so while definitely people who have all different types of websites all along the spectrum will be able to get business based on, I see that there's more leeway for people who have a really unique hot topic to have a website that's not so awesome, because it's the topic that they're going after. But if you're in an area where a topic area that there is a lot of competition, for lack of a better word right now. I don't really believe in competition, but there's a lot of other people speaking about leadership.
Yeah.
For instance, then your website needs to really be able to grab, like you were saying, within the first couple of seconds. It is more than the website. That's also are you doing a great job as a speaker? And when we do a great job, we know, because we get business, we get spin-off business. And as speakers, we want to get to that point where every time we speak, we're picking up new business. And if you're not there yet, you still need to work on your content development, your presentation skills, and to get to that point. But what is interesting to me, and I've been, you and I are probably about the same. I started June of 2001.
Okay.
So I'm almost at the end of my 19th year, heading into my 20th.
Yeah.
And so along the way, what I've noticed is that there's the getting the ball rolling phase for speakers where they're trying to build up some momentum. And so it's really helpful then to have a great packet, a great site, a great email campaign, doing like the thought leadership, influencer stuff out there with blogging and all that. Like, you get out there, you get your name to where people are seeing you everywhere. which is what you want. But then that helps you get more speaking engagements. And when you do a great job as a speaker, then it tends to throw off more speaking engagements to you. And then I see people can kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit, they don't have to push as much on the marketing side. But it's a balancing act, because if you pull your foot back too far, then you find that you have nothing scheduled next year. I've seen that with people who have been speakers for 20 to 30 years that are big names. You'd be like, really? That person had a dry spell? But it's because it really is a balancing act. And I think that the two most important pieces of marketing that are foundational, that need to be in place, continually need to be serving you well, would be the website, and having on that website that speaker packet. Because all their other stuff, writing articles, doing Facebook Live, doing the podcast, all these other things, that's all kind of level 2 to me. It's like thought leadership.
Yeah.
You can kind of dabble in different areas at different times, but those consistent is, you want to have that website representing you well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Cause I was at Jumpstart this year. And I mean, this happened to me where I'm there, and Paul Homily was there, and he introduced me to a couple planners and said, hey, you ought to put this guy on your radar. And they were like, okay. And they're like, are you on Facebook? I'm like, yeah, you can check me out there. So they're probably going to go and look at some of my stuff, but then they're like, send me your website when you get back, so I send that to them. So everybody's cross-referencing, so yeah. You get an introduction. They're probably going to look at social and just kind of get a handle for some of the thought leadership and activity. They're going to go to my website. They're going to download the speaker kit. Hopefully they're going to try to find a reel of me speaking somewhere else. And if all that adds up, if all the pieces keep confirming along the way, then it has a better chance of turning into something. But if there's a disconnect at some point, whether it's the site or the speaker packet, they're like, they're not taking this as seriously as we want to see that. And it doesn't go anywhere.
Well, I think you make a really good point. And I always suggest to speakers to have all that in one place on their site. So when you do these other, the webinars and podcasts and things that are recorded, it would be great for it to be back either on your speaking page, or to have a media page, or have something where it's super easy. And sometimes, as a clinician starts out, they'll put a speaking page on their practice website, which can work. Mm-hmm. It can work to their advantage if it's a clinical topic that they're teaching. I would never recommend that if they're teaching like practice profitability, or something like that. We wouldn't want to put that where patients are going to be likely to stumble across it. Yeah. But at some point, it makes sense to separate those, to have your practice site, and then definitely to have a separate, speaking and consulting website, which is probably like at least 5 to 8 pages, over 5 to 8 as it grows, so that you can have different seminars you're creating. I mean, it's more than just being a speaker on the circuit. There's also your own virtual programs that people are starting to do now. Maybe your online things that you've created that are educational. You want to have like a store where they can, even if you're connecting to like a or something, there's so many ways for you as a speaker. It's so important to have your own site there, so that over time it can become more and more robust, and that all just speaks to you as an expert, as an influencer. Yeah, gosh, I totally agree. We're like preaching to the choir here, each of us, right?
I know. Good point. Keep going.
We're both preachers, ministers on this. So is there anything that we haven't chatted about that would be important? So as we think about our speakers and consultants that are listening in, and for them to be able to more fully connect to the meeting planners and to potential clients, was there anything about site that would be important for us to chat about?
Yeah, I think, and I don't know your stance on this, but I feel like as personal brands continue to develop, which for me, that's a lot of times what kind of the overarching, what a speaker, what an influencer, what a thought leader is they're developing this personal brand. I think bringing the personal side into it as well, like not being afraid to do that, not being afraid to include your family, significant others, hobbies, not just like, in my free time, I enjoy this and this, but really, one of our shared clients we were working on this last week played for a university big deal marching band. And so, we got the chance to stage him in front of that stadium in a really fun photo, but it gives people like something to kind of hook onto and go, whoa, that's cool. And especially if they know that school and his role in the band, it was a really iconic part that he played. And people here in Columbus and Ohio, they're like, what? You did what? Yeah. So, you know, I think it's like people want to know that you're going to deliver professionally, but I think that they also want to know you personally and like your values. And so I think that that's a really big, important part to bring in, whether it's through social media, but also through the website. When we're dealing with personal brands, I'm like, you know, if you're going to post 2, 3, 4 things every week professionally, we need to offset that with 1 or 2 posts personally as well. Yeah. You know, I want to see you working with your kids e-learning at home right now, like, you know, or cooking meals. Like, what are we doing? Like, give us that part of it as well.
Human interest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm totally going to name drop because I don't think Dr. Kyle Bogan would care that we name drop. He got to dot the I. And you guys did a great job. Was that what it was? He was dotting an I? Is that, I'm not an Ohio person, but I think that was
the Ohio State band, they do this iconic Ohio script where they spell out Ohio on the stadium every game, and it's one of the, you know, the biggest college traditions ever. And then one of the senior, it looks like a tuba, but it's actually a sousaphone. They come out and they do this very ceremonial, like dotting the I, and it's a big deal. And Kyle got to do it when he was at OSU, and it was funny. We built out his practice website for his dental practice, and I knew this. And so as we're building the site, I emailed him. I go, hey, do you have video footage of that? He's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, we need to put this on the dental site, like about Dr. Bogan, and put like actual video footage. And he's like, do you think that's relevant? And I'm like, man, I know the people are like, my dentist dotted the I, like that's so huge. So yeah.
That's awesome. And he's so awesome. I'm really glad I've had a chance to get to know him.
Yeah.
He's in fact, I think general chairman was meeting this year. He's a busy guy at the practice and dealing with the challenges right now. I'm sure it's like all dentists out there with not practicing and, you know, being a speaker and handling a meeting. He's got a lot going. He's an amazing guy. I'm glad we had a chance to shout out. I want to just add like a little yes and a footnote to what you're saying about sharing their personal stories. That's something that I've been encouraging speakers to do as well. So we have maybe a personal bio on their site, but then I would encourage them to also have, professional, but also to have maybe even a personal bio. You can tell your story, because a lot of speakers, there's a very interesting story about how they got into what they do. You know, I'm thinking like Dr. Ronnie Brown has been a jump starter with us for a couple of years, and she's this a gorgeous, Ronnie, you're maybe 90 pounds soaking wet, this young, gorgeous doctor who is a gel dentist, who has, you know, kids at home, and like this whole personal side of her that we get to meet at Jumpstart. But then you're like, wow, she's a gel dentist and become the foremost expert on methamphetamine abuse. Like, how does that happen? You know, so it's like when I think there's a lot of speakers out there who have a path and a journey, and I absolutely agree with you. I think it helps us connect. So it helps me remember the speaker, because there, especially in her case, there's kind of like your head goes, wait a minute. Like I would expect gel dentists to be like big burly guys.
Yeah, right.
I don't know why. I just like my own little preconceived notion. But now I'm more likely to remember her and her topic as a result of knowing that, whereas I wouldn't have been as likely as a planner until I, you know, have that deeper. So I love that you're encouraging that, and that's I see that as a big part of what you're talking about with their story, like the chance to dot the I, or you know, those different
things. Like when I speak, my kind of main keynote, and really anytime I speak, I have this habit of just opening up with one of the, I grew up actually in the Compton area of Los Angeles, and I start with a story from that. And what's funny, like people remember that, you know, and so it's like, and it's just a speaking principle. It's, you know, before you get into what you know, like connect with them on who you are. And so I think that translates into the digital space as well. But sometimes maybe we disconnect from that, and we're like, oh, we get into the content and the information. I think it's like, well, don't forget to connect with people digitally as well on, you know, who you are. And, you know, for a long time, like I actually, even before dentistry, my background is I went to seminary. And so that was like the first 10 years of my career was in that world. And, dentistry is a pretty hard left turn out of that, but I tell people I went from, ministry to dentistry, which is not normally the way you do it. But that was my approach. And I think for a while, it's kind of like, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. People will probably be like, oh, that's weird. Maybe even judge me for it. But at the end of the day, it's just like, that's who I am. I think it definitely communicates some values about me, about Joanna, just about our family, about how we do business. So yeah, like I just don't shy away from that stuff anymore.
I love that. I don't know that I knew that about you.
Yeah. Well, now you do.
But now I do. Now we all do. That's really awesome. And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't have a single picture of a cat crawling on my head. Like everybody knows I'm a cat lady. I got the cat towers, but I'm like, I've got to get some cat photos on my website. Oh, and on that note, gosh, I really want to thank you for being here, Josh. It was really fun.
Yeah,
we'd love to continue our conversation another time. And I want to thank everybody who Tim's here, Teresa, Kevin, Sarah, Joy, John, Elaine.
I saw John Stanford jumped on. Hey, John.
Yeah, Susan. Well, thank you guys all for listening in. This has been really helpful. So we should have some cat photos. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Tim. So how do we reach you, Josh?
Yeah, best place online. Two places really. Social, I'm at Joshua Scott, Instagram and Facebook. Just hit me up there. And then website for Studio8E8, go to s8e8.com. The letter S, the number 8, the letter E, the number 8.com.
And I want to leave you personally with a thought about when I think about your brand with Studio8E8, I think about the different things I've seen on Facebook and just knowing you guys in person and just seeing throughout the year who you be. Like they say about integrity and stuff, it's not what you say up front to people, it's what people do like when nobody's looking. It's one of those kind of things. Like, so if we look at like what you guys are doing, I just want to say I just adore you and Joanna. I think Joanna, I have a friend Joanna, and I feel like you guys are contemporary. It feels like you're really hip. You've got like this. I could see where you'd attract, I'm sure, dentists of all ages, but like especially like the younger, like the millennial dentist. I feel like you guys are like just really tapping into something that is current and important. And I'm just honored that you've been a sponsoring partner with Jumpstart. We appreciate that support. We appreciate you supporting speakers by coming today and sharing from your heart with them about what they can do or how they can help their clients with their website marketing. So thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being who you guys are.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that. And look, we love you. We met you the very first time. Well, first off, we got introduced through a mutual client. Shaquila was like, you guys need to meet and talk. But got to meet you down at Dentistry's Got Talent last October for the first time. And at that point, I told you, I said, hey, I'm signed up to go to Jumpstart. I'm really excited to learn. I mean, you've created this space, this experience where I don't think there's a better authoritative experience for the dental speaking world than Jumpstart. And it's clear when you're there. I mean, there's like all the attendees, and then there's like all these people that really love each other and like just jump in, and everybody's so supportive and such a good vibe. And so I remember talking to you, and you're like, well, why not just, be a sponsor? Because it wasn't like that much of a difference. And then you can really, and your heart was, so I can promote your company and get you out there better. And so I've just always appreciated your support in that, world as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, we definitely appreciate you guys too. We're looking forward to seeing you and everybody watching back in January. My unofficial is come hell or we're holding a meeting. So I kept it on the logo, right? That's my country girl upbringing.
Yeah.
There will be a meeting. We'll see everybody in January. But in the meantime, reach out to Josh at s8e8.com. And I don't remember the email.
You can email Joshua at s8e8.com or hit me up on social, Instagram at Joshua Scott.
Perfect. Well, until next time, everybody be well. And thanks again for being here. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.